Hey, everybody, and welcome to Adapter Parish, episode 110, Hairspray. We're happy to be doing another musical so soon after Into the Woods, but before the curtain goes up, let's talk about our next episode. Valentine's Day is coming up, and as always, we wanted to mark the occasion. We thought to ourselves, what better way could there be to celebrate the love that two people can share than the tender, subtle, completely romantic, not at all tawdry classic Lady Chatterley's Lover. Probably so many other ones would be better and less awkward, but Lady Chatterley's the one we're going with. We'll be discussing D.H. Lawrence's original 1928 novel and screen adaptations released from 1955 to 2015. This one's going to be uncomfortable for us as well as you, and it's definitely not for the kids. From the feedback department, I want to call out an amazing message we got on Instagram from listener Maggie. In our last episode, while looking at I Know What You Did Last Summer, we posed the question, what's the opposite of a red herring? Thanks to Maggie, from now on, I'll be referring to the opposite of a red herring as a Blue's Clue. Adapter Parish appreciates your contribution. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections about today's episode or any others that you'd like to hear on the show, remember to email adapterparishcast@gmail.com. If you enjoy the show, we'd love it if you would share that with the world by leaving a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. We're also on Patreon at patreon.com/adaptcast. We've got a patron-only community and our bi-weekly bonus show, Adapter Parish Plus, with episodes releasing every Tuesday between episodes of this show. We hope you check it out. Show notes from this and all other episodes can be found at adapterparishcast.com. And with that, on with the show, Adapter Parish, episode 110, Hairspray. Hello and welcome to Adapter Parish, a podcast about adaptation. I'm Jeremy Latour.
And I'm Ari Lipshaw, and today we are talking about Hairspray.
We're doing musicals again.
Yay! Hairspray, a thing neither of us need.
Why?
Because
yours is short and mine is none?
you could hairspray your beard.
I could hairspray my beard.
I don't know why you would.
Why would you?
I mean, yeah, that seems...
Solid banter, sweetie.
Yeah.
Solid banter. I'm just
yeah.
excited we're doing another musical.
I
This
know.
is great. We're playing this one a little looser than we normally do.
I think we talked about this a little bit, is that we had always thought we couldn't really do musicals because it's hard to watch stuff that was on stage and it doesn't really lend itself, blah, blah, blah. And we also don't love watching things that are pirated at all. And obviously, like, sort of by definition, almost any video recording of a live musical is illicit in some way. But one thing we realized is there's a lot of musicals that there are actually multiple different licitly recorded versions that we can watch, and we love musicals so much that we're trying to incorporate them into the show just a little bit more because it's super fun.
Yeah, so in this episode we're going to be talking about the original 1988 movie written and directed by John Waters. We're going to be talking about the 2002 musical. We're going to be talking about the 2007 movie musical, and then we're going to be talking about 2016's Hairspray Live.
Yes.
I'm trying to be theatrical for this episode.
That's the plan.
For the theater kid in all of us.
I've been listening to more musicals in the car with Calvin because we had a playlist that was mostly sea shanties that I started to get sick of. And then I realized I could make him another playlist of songs that I thought a 2-year-old would like from musicals. And it's very funny because he definitely has like some that he really likes. He loves Do Re Mi, calls it Do a Deer. He likes Waving Through a Window.
Well, of course he does.
Because it's a banger.
I mean, sweetie, find me someone who doesn't like waving through a window.
He does not like Oh My God, You Guys from Legally Blonde.
Okay.
And he doesn't like Pick a Pocket or Two from Oliver. But there's a bunch that he really enjoys.
But anyway, moving on to 1988's Hairspray. Let's get started.
Remind me what your relationship with John Waters is or was.
Well, this is the thing. Because you know what? This is my tearful into camera, YouTuber.
You're like all dressed in white, like sitting on a white bed.
No, this is more like I have to apologize.
Yeah.
This is my apology.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess we watch different apologies.
Yeah.
There's a YouTuber I like who just posted an apology last week, and it's like the first experience I've had with a YouTuber I follow doing an apology video.
They usually have to sit, they usually are sitting on their bed for some reason.
This was a couch,
Yeah.
but still it was my first experience with it, and you know what? Made me feel uncomfortable the entire time.
There you go.
So this is my big apology right now. My apology is to John Waters, because I, for years, maintained that I did not like John Waters movies. I always liked John Waters the guy, because how can you not?
Mm-hmm.
What a delightful person he is.
What a delightful little sprite.
But I'd seen a number of his movies when I was in my film school days, my undergrad film school days, when I really loved movies, but had some, to be fair to myself, I'm going to say that some of my opinions were shitty, because I needed to grow out of them.
Yeah.
And one of the opinions that I convinced myself that I had was that I didn't like camp, because one of the things about camp is that, this is how I would have characterized it at the time, is that camp is intentionally bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see why you would intentionally make a movie bad. Why would you do that? Like a John Waters movie? I don't like any John Waters movies. I saw Pink Flamingos. I didn't like with the dog poop. I saw Hairspray. I didn't care for it. I saw Polyester. Made me uncomfortable. It's a weird movie. I didn't like it. I don't like John Waters movies. Saw Cecil B. Demented and Pecker. I didn't like them.
I mean, for something you didn't like, you seem like you gave it the old college try.
But yeah, and I kind of needed to.
Yeah. But
one of the things that happens to me a lot is I use Letterboxd. And one of the things I tried to do at one point is my little project was go through and log every single movie I'd ever seen on Letterboxd and give it just my gut reaction rating. Like, what did I think of it? And so I did that all like 2 years ago. And so what's been happening is I'll go back and revisit a movie that I saw years ago, and I go to like rate it again on Letterboxd and realize that, I felt wildly differently about this the first time I rated it. So what was my reaction in general sitting next to you watching Hairspray?
you loved it. You loved every minute of it.
Yeah. I went back to like rate it again. I had rated it before. 2 out of 5 stars. I had told myself that I didn't like Hairspray, and I don't know what changed, but the change was in me.
Maybe you've become just a more open-minded individual and more willing to just let fun things be fun.
That's kind of what I think it is.
Yeah. In your older age, you've just removed your head, but slightly, from your butthole.
From my butthole.
Yeah.
Yeah. If ever so slightly outside my butthole.
I didn't know you when you were pretentious. I only knew you.
That's so kind of you to say.
Yeah.
Some would say that it's still going strong. I just feel terrible.
Yeah.
I feel terrible because I badmouthed this movie for years, not knowing that I loved it. And I feel so much worse about that than I do. There are movies that I've said for years are good, and then I go back and revisit them years later and realize, like, oh no, I've been telling people this is good. For years I've been banging the drum for this movie. I don't even want to say what some of them are. And then I go back and realize that I was wrong because they're not good. That makes me feel like kind of bad because I feel a little embarrassed for myself. This makes me feel terrible.
Yeah.
Like an artist created art that was great, and they put it in front of my face, and I was such a douchebag that my reaction was, that's not good. I have spoken. Like, that's shitty, and I feel terrible about it.
Yeah.
Hairspray's great.
I guess I wouldn't feel too hard on yourself. Like, the whole premise of this podcast.
I mean, this is mostly a joke.
Yeah, no,
This is mostly for comedy.
I just want to say,
I'm not crying. No tears have been shed.
The whole premise of this podcast is basically artists put things in front of us and we say it's not good. Or it is good, as the case may be. But we've said many things are not good.
But I always love saying that something's good more than I like saying that something's not good.
That's true.
And everyone, Hairspray, 1988. Hairspray is good. Hey, what was your experience with the movie Hairspray?
I had seen it before, but I didn't really remember it. I think like you, I didn't really get it. And I don't think I've ever seen Pink Flamingos. I know your thing is like just because you didn't get it doesn't mean it's not good is a bad thing to say.
It's a bad thing to say.
But I truly don't think I really got it. I don't think I quite understood the genre it was coming from. But the thing it reminded me of most of all, and I think this was intentional on the part of the filmmakers of the movie I'm about to cite, it really reminded me of But I'm a Cheerleader.
Sure,
which is a movie that I love and also has Mink Stoll in it. Which I think maybe is why that popped into my head. But the just general absurdity, but also real earnestness. I think the way that the two things kind of commingled,
Mm-hmm.
I think, is a hard balance to strike. Like, listen, this is a hot take. John Waters is a good filmmaker,
Yeah.
I think. My understanding is that like Hairspray is kind of John Waters light. Like some of his other films are a little bit tougher to get into. Is my understanding. Like I don't really want to see Divine eat dog poop. I just don't want to see that.
So don't watch Pink Flamingos all the way to the
So
end.
yeah, so that's sort of my thing. But I really liked it and
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
Should we talk about what this movie's about?
Yeah, do you want to do a back of the box?
I'm going to do the shortest back of the box you've ever heard. It's Baltimore, 1962, and a rebellious, quote, a pleasantly plump teenager attempts to be one of the featured stars on a popular dance show and win the coveted Miss Auto Show crown.
I mean, that's like half of it.
Sure.
There's a pretty major plot.
I figured we'd spend some time going through the
ignored.
plot, and so it was fine to not spend too much time on it.
Okay. So, do you want me to expand on the plot a little bit?
Let me just give some background on it. There isn't a lot of background to give. Written and directed by John Waters, who also directed many of the movies that I already mentioned before. It starred Ricky Lake as Tracy Turnblad, starred Divine as Edna Turnblad. I think we're going to talk a little more about Divine in a little bit.
Yeah.
But a number of good people, lots of good music people in this. Debbie Harry is in this. Sonny Bono is in this. Rick Ocasek, Pia Zadora. Lots of good people. Jerry Stiller, not music, but he's great.
He's great.
It's just
R.I.P.
a lot of good people in a movie by John Waters.
Yeah.
That is about. Go ahead.
All right. So Tracy Turnblad is a perky teen in 1962 Baltimore. And she loves to dance. And there's this great show called The Courtney Collins Show that she watches every afternoon with her friend Penny. But the cool thing about the show is like it's a local TV show. So she goes to school with these teens. But these teens are cool teens because they're on TV dancing on the show. So
Oh my God, like Link. Don't even get me started about
God.
Link. He's so handsome.
So she gets this opportunity to audition for the Courtney Collins Show, and despite the fact that some, first she gets turned down. She gets turned down,
100%
like immediately
turned down. Yeah.
because everyone's really mean to her. But then she goes to this dance because she's going to try again. She goes to a dance and she shows off her skills, and Courtney Collins is like, "Yeah, you're great." And then she gets to be on the show, and her mom, Divine, is at first not happy about her doing this, but then excited for her.
I will say this for Edna in the movie. Edna does not have a huge arc in the movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, she does have an arc in as much as everybody does, which is that because the movie's about the civil rights movement. Like we
Right.
haven't even mentioned.
Yeah, we haven't
it.
even mentioned the civil rights part
And
yet.
like everyone in the movie, Edna grows to become more accepting, both of her daughter and what her daughter wants to do, and dancing, and also black people. Like she becomes
Yeah.
more accepting, and that is her great arc throughout the movie.
Yeah. Tracy's goal becomes to integrate the Courtney Collins Show. So the main dancers are all white children, but once a month the black children get to dance on the Courtney Collins Show, but only by themselves, right? And so her goal is to integrate, and white and black people have never danced together on television. So she makes it her goal to integrate the television show with the help of her friends, Motormouth Maybelle, who's the host of Negro Day, quote.
Who also does? She's the only one who appears when all the white kids are there.
Yes, she
Yeah.
does come on. And because she's not dancing. The
Right.
dancing is the issue. And so Tracy's friend Seaweed and Tracy's friend Penny fall for each other, which is a big deal because they're a mixed race couple. And Tracy falls for the hot stud of the Courtney Collins Show, Link.
I mean, Tracy began the movie having fallen for Link already.
Yes. And Link had been going with her nemesis, Amber, whose mom
Amber Von Tussle!
whose mom in this version has nothing to do with the television show, in case you've only seen the musical. Her mom has nothing to do with the TV show. Her mom is just married to her dad, who runs like a segregated amusement park.
Yep,
in
amusement
town.
park only appears in the movie.
Yeah. So the amusement park has to be integrated through a riot, and Tracy goes to jail.
Super quick, her
Yeah.
dad, Sonny Bono.
Her dad's Sonny Bono.
Her mom, Debbie Harry.
Yeah, it's pretty
and
great.
She herself, Colleen Fitzpatrick. And you might say,
Who's
wait,
Colleen Fitzpatrick?
Who's Colleen Fitzpatrick? And I would say she's Vitamin C.
Yeah.
Who famously did the song Smile.
Yeah.
And if you don't think you know the song Smile,
Oh, you do.
go to the show notes and give a little click because you do know the song Smile.
You do. You know it. It's been in every commercial. Basically, they succeed in their quest at the end of integrating the television show. I did look this up. In 1962, Baltimore had been technically integrated because of Brown v. Board of Education for like almost 10 years. But the thing that they did in Baltimore, which they also did in Boston and in lots of other places, was the way that they drew the districting for the school was to effectively segregate
Sure. Yeah,
the
yeah,
schools.
yeah.
So I think the only part I think John Waters was drawing from his childhood, is my understanding, because he's like about like all his stuff is about
Yeah,
Baltimore,
Corny
right?
Collins was based on like a real show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that I would question in terms of like the realism is I don't think the school would actually have been that integrated.
But that's the thing. Realism doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's the thing I love about it.
But I'm just saying, like, I actually like that this ridiculous plot is built upon something very real and came out of the filmmaker's lived experience.
I love the fact that this movie. What is the opposite of nostalgia? What's looking back and saying, "Oh no, things were shit."
And anti-nostalgia.
But that's the thing I love about this movie, that I have come to love about this movie, is that it is so beautifully unflinching about how much it says, "Oh, back in the beginning of the 60s, oh my god, so much stuff was great.
Yeah.
The fashion was amazing.
The
hair was incredible.
The
TV
music?
watched, the music we watched, oh my god, it was all so good. By the way, everything else was dog shit.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrible.
People were so racist. Did you know? Did you know how racist everybody was?
Sexist, homophobic, everything was awful, just so you know.
Just so you know.
And I feel like that's a beautiful perspective to take, and that's like one of the 20 things I didn't appreciate about the movie the first time I saw it.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved this time.
Cool. So that's like basically the plot. And if that sounded kind of loosey-goosey, it's because it kind of is. Like, it's just real fun. Do you want to talk about Divine? I know you had some stuff you wanted to say.
Just a few things. So Divine is, to be clear, Divine is Harris Glenn Milstead, born 1945, died 3 weeks after this movie came out.
That fucking sucks.
Right? And this movie was a hit. Like, this movie was John Waters' first PG movie. His other movies had all been, like, rated X up until this point.
That's why I said it was, like, John Waters light.
I just feel like a PG John Waters movie is kind of the pinnacle of a John Waters movie, because the whole point of a John Waters movie is to be subversive.
Yes.
So I feel like you're automatically not being as subversive as you could be if you're rated X, because most people who need the subversion are not going to see it.
Yeah.
Whereas a PG movie, tons of people saw.
Yeah.
Divine was in a bunch of movies. Obviously, he was in a lot of John Waters movies, Pink Flamingos, Female Trouble, Polyester. Did a few other movies as well. There was one that I remember seeing on Comedy Central constantly called Lust in the Dust. It's like a Western with Tab Hunter. And who's the mom in My Big Fat Greek Wedding?
I don't know.
What's her name?
I don't know.
Lainey Kazan. Anyway, Divine clearly was John Waters' muse.
Yeah. Just correct me if I'm wrong, just
Yep.
to make sure I am referring to Divine properly. Divine used he, pronouns
yes.
in his personal life.
Yeah, Divine was a man.
Yes.
Like, very specifically, Divine was not trans. Divine was a man.
Yeah.
And Divine had this character who was Divine. And he even said in interviews, like, someone was interviewing him and was talking about the character Divine, and he says, well, that even gets complicated because there's the Divine you're talking to right now. Like, he actually went as Divine. Like, if you looked at his ID, his passport, it said Divine.
Yeah.
But Divine was also a character he would play in live performances and in movies.
Yeah, he was like an old school female impersonator. Like, that's what he did.
Yeah, that was his thing. But I think the thing that really, let's get into for a second, what to you are some of the things that you like about Divine?
I mean, first of all, Divine is an amazing actor.
Yeah.
Super funny. Inhabits the part. Divine, by the way, plays two parts in this movie. One, Edna Turnblad, and the other is
Arvin Hodgepile. He's the station
manager.
He's really racist.
Yeah, the racist station manager. And the thing that I noted to you is, like, there is no shot of Divine as Edna, as a woman in this movie, that is not loving and respectful.
Yeah.
Despite how over the top a female impersonation this is. And I said, like, Divine is ridiculous as a like, Divine's portrayal of this male character is ridiculous, but Edna is never ridiculous. Edna is just a person, and there is not one single joke in the movie that is a joke about the fact that Divine is a man playing a woman.
Yeah, like, none whatsoever.
None whatsoever.
Yeah.
And, like, not even a ton of jokes about Divine being fat. There's nothing that is making fun of Divine, either as a performer or the character that Divine is playing.
Well,
at all.
the joke is that she is fat, but the joke is that she's confident.
Yeah.
The joke is that the fact that she's fat doesn't matter.
Yeah,
the joke is that it's not a joke.
It's not a joke. And like Tracy's weight isn't really a joke. And like the thing about Tracy that I appreciated and thought was beautiful about this movie, and like part of it that I didn't really remember, is like, yeah, Tracy has this thing where like a couple of mean people are making fun of her, but those mean people immediately have other people from their same social group saying to them, you're being really shitty. You're being really mean. Why would you make fun of her? The movie is not about Tracy having to work to prove that she is great despite her weight. Like, that's not really the plot of the movie. Everybody is pretty sold on Tracy from the beginning.
Yeah.
The problem is that Tracy's trying to integrate the Corny Collins show, and people have a problem with that.
And I feel like that's the funny thing. And I'm not saying John Waters sat down and said, this is what my movie is about. But if I put my film school hat on for a second, like one of the things I could look at is the fact that John Waters is himself an outsider, making a movie about an outsider who is accepted immediately.
Immediately, yeah.
But then uses her acceptance to gain greater acceptance for other outsiders.
Right.
That's a concept we could talk about for 2 hours, but let's not. Let's talk about the funny stuff.
Yeah, I saw I didn't do as much research as you, or none, but I did see a quote from Divine. Like, someone asked Divine, like, what is it like working with Ricki Lake? And the quote was something like, well, she's 19 and a delight. I hate her.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I just think it's so great. And if people haven't listened to our Matilda episode, I would recommend it. The thing that happens, who's the character in Matilda?
Miss Trunchbull.
Miss Trunchbull. And in the book, she's a woman. In the Danny DeVito movie,
woman.
Pam Ferris.
Pam Ferris is amazing.
And then when it was turned into a musical, they made the decision that Miss Trunchbull would always be played by a man on stage. And this comes from, you know more about this than I do, but it comes from like it's
a pantomime. It's a British thing. Like it's a British, and not just pantomime. Like there's a storied history of men wearing dresses, and that's British comedy. Like, think about Monty Python. You know what I mean? But that all comes from pantomime. Like the pantomime dame, like the male actor playing a female character, an older, unattractive female character to the point of ridiculousness. But a lot of the jokes are around the fact that it's a man playing a woman.
But I feel like one of the things, there's so much to unpack with it. So let me just kind of zero in on a couple of, like, one or two things.
Yeah.
Like, one of the things about it is that the joke is coming from the fact that because it's a man, the man is accentuating all of the masculine characteristics of the woman.
Yes.
And I feel like that's the thing, going back and looking at Monty Python, it's not true for all of the women characters that they played, but a lot of them, part of the humor comes from how masculine they were playing the character.
Right.
But then contrast that with Divine in Hairspray, because that's coming out of a completely different tradition.
Right.
Because that's coming from drag. Which is a totally different thing.
Yeah.
Because whereas, like, the pantomime and Monty Python, I mean, even Monty Python wasn't 100%, but like comes a lot more from like cisgender straight men.
Yeah.
Drag is all about gay men.
Right.
And it's all about playing with aspects of femininity and masculinity.
Yeah. And I think the place where Divine's portrayal of Edna in this movie is so groundbreaking is that it comes out of a drag tradition, but drag traditionally, now drag is anything you want it to be, but like traditionally drag was all about glam, like so feminine, so glamorous, like so beautiful and perfect. And this is out of a drag tradition, but this is a decidedly non-glamorous character, but who was born out of drag, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I am like treading around the borders of something that I definitely studied in school and understand that there's scholarship and have read that scholarship, but it was like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm worried that I'm going to say something like I'm going to sound like I know what I'm talking about, but then say something like super incorrect.
Okay, so let me take the hit.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing that we talk about in the Matilda episode that we haven't even said yet, which is this idea of, in today's world, in today's media, the men in the panto playing women is now we look at it through the lens of transphobia.
Yeah.
And I looked at this movie and all of the subsequent stuff through the same lens.
Yeah.
And I'm an outsider to that world, but I definitely had my opinions of it as we were watching it. And whereas we watched Matilda, and it felt to me to be kind of transphobic.
Yeah.
There was something about Hairspray that felt to me to not be.
Yeah.
Because
it was very joyful.
Right? Because the whole thing about making the decision, because anyone who knows the musical knows that the decision that was made during the inception of the musical was that Edna would always be played by a man.
Right.
Which is exactly the same decision that they made for Matilda.
Yeah.
For Miss Trunchbull.
Right.
Whereas that was born out of the pantomime tradition. This was born out of respect for the fact that Divine played this character so feminine, but was still who he was.
And was a drag queen.
Yes.
Like,
all of this is to say, it's just so many words to say it's born out of a different tradition.
Yes.
That is not itself without problematic aspects, especially now. But the aspect of it that I'm talking about is that it's born out of a kind of love for femininity.
Yeah.
And an embracement of femininity in a way that I think the pantomime isn't.
Yeah, I guess the way that I would sum that up, probably very overly simplistically, is that panto is punching down and drag is punching up.
Like drag is basically saying, well, why is this not okay?
Yeah, fuck you.
I am who I am.
Yeah.
But pantomime is basically saying, like, this is not who I am.
This is not who I am. And
this
would be so silly if it was who I am.
But luckily it's not.
Yeah. All right, should we finish up talking about this movie?
Yes, I'm just looking at my notes. I'm trying to think if there's anything else big that we need to hit. One person who is amazing that we've barely talked about is Jerry Stiller's Wilbur Turnblad.
Great.
And I think it's one of the things that makes Divine as Edna work so well because Jerry Stiller is 100% on board.
Yeah.
Like
this is my wife.
He loves her.
Yeah.
Like Wilbur loves his wife so much and is attracted to her.
Yes.
That's like part of it. I just love how many musicians are in this and how like Debbie Harry and Sonny Bono, Rick O'Kay, it's not like they're great actors. That's not the point. The point is that they're all tonally consistent across the movie. And I just, the tonal consistency is the thing I came out loving so much. And I just want to read this section before we move on to the musical. This was from David Edelstein's review of the 2007 movie. None of what he's writing here really has to do with that. But because he also reviewed Hairspray in 88, and something he said about it was here too. In 1988, before the opening of John Waters' Hairspray, I found the Prince of Puke, John Waters, the man who ended Pink Flamingos with his homicidal heroine scooping up and eating a fresh doggy turd, gleeful at having made a liberal teen message movie with a PG rating. Of course, it was a satire of teen message movies, but the subversiveness eased under the radar. Waters liked when I called it a family movie the Bradys and the Mansons could adore. He only wished it were rated G. He added that he wanted to make an X-rated film with no nudity, violence, or four-letter words. Quote, it would just be so offensive to people's values. The emergence of Hairspray as a hit Broadway musical was the ultimate joke. Now busloads of suburbanites could thrill to what began as a gay boy's wet dream of the fusion of early rock and roll and outlandish middle-class tackiness. I love all of that.
Yeah.
All right, so I feel like the philosophy and the bigger stuff and that's...
Covered it.
We've covered it.
Covered it.
Now we can just talk about some musicals for
Yay.
the second half of it. Welcome to Act 2.
Yay!
In 1998, producer Margot Lyon originally conceived Hairspray as a musical because she saw Hairspray on TV and was like, oh, this could be a musical. Reached out to John Waters. He gave his blessing, and then they kind of moved ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Music and lyrics by Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman, who had been working together for years. Shaman...
He's done everything.
He's done everything. He composed a million film scores, worked
South
on TV
Park.
for years, co-wrote the songs for South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. They worked together for years. They wrote, here are just the musicals they've worked on together. They did Catch Me If You Can after this, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the musical. They did most of the songs for Mary Poppins Returns.
Yeah.
And they wrote the song Save the City, which appears in the show Hawkeye on Disney Plus in the musical within a show, within the reality of it, called Rogers the Musical, which is clearly a takeoff on Hamilton.
Oh, boy.
And it is pretty joyous, and I really enjoyed it.
Great.
You have not seen it.
I have not seen this.
The book was by Mark O'Donnell and Thomas Meehan. Thomas Meehan wrote the books for Annie, The Producers, Young Frankenstein, and Crybaby, another John Waters musical adaptation, also with Mark O'Donnell.
Not as successful.
Not as successful, no. What could be as successful as Hairspray?
Literally
How many
nothing.
Performances did it run for?
Ran for like 2,600 performances on Broadway.
Which is a lot.
It's a good number.
I mean, what do people hope for? What's a number people really hope for?
I feel like if you run a year, that's pretty good, and that would be like, I'm gonna say in the neighborhood of 400 performances would be a year. So like, I feel like if that's doing well, 2,600 performances on Broadway
is big.
And a long life, like a long school community touring life for this musical.
I love the idea, like John Waters was talking about, that high schools are doing this, and it, Midwestern high schools, and parents are going to see it, and they're like, this was based on the movie by the guy who did that movie where the drag queen eats dog shit at the end of the movie. And they're like, oh, pretend dog shit? No, actual dog shit. You see it get pooped out the back of the dog, and then Divine eats it.
Great.
Created this. Did you know that?
Amazing.
You know who knows? John Waters knows.
He does know.
And loves it.
Loves it.
Loves it.
Loves it.
So
You know what I bet John Waters wouldn't have loved?
What?
The clip I saw of some school or program doing this where Tracy was in a fat suit. I didn't care for that. They cast like a skinny actress, but put her in like a really bad fat suit.
I mean, I honestly bet John Waters doesn't care that much. I bet his reaction would be, these idiots, they don't know how much funnier they're making it.
Yeah.
They're making it so much better because now they're the joke.
I actually have heard that a lot of actresses who have played Tracy, despite being plus sized in their personal life, have had to wear padding because doing 8 shows a week of this show is so grueling that they can't maintain a plump physique, which makes sense.
Can I give my favorite story about that?
Sure.
In The Producers, Max Bialystock, played by Zero Mostel in the movie, was a large man.
Yeah.
And Nathan Lane was cast in the musical, also kind of portly himself, like a little, like smaller,
Stout.
but stout guy.
Short and stout.
And even written into it was a scene where his partner, Leo Bloom, calls him fatty. And they had to write in the line,
I'm not that fat.
because after doing the show through rehearsals and previews, he had lost so much weight that he wasn't really that fat anymore.
Well, we're going to talk about Jennifer Hudson in a minute. So was there other background you wanted to give about the show? Because full disclosure, we watched these in a weird order because we watched the 1988 movie and then we watched the movie musical because that came next chronologically. And then we watched Hairspray live because that came last chronologically. But of course, the musical version came before the movie. But as you pointed out, Hairspray live drew some influence from the movie musical because there were songs in the movie that were written for the movie that were in Hairspray live.
As I pointed out to you before we recorded.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's all kind of a mishmash in my mind. So I said to you, I'm just going to go to YouTube and try to find, a bootleg of the slime tutorial of the performance.
It's a world I was not familiar with until recently.
Because I actually am really curious to know what was changed. I don't know enough about how the original Broadway musical was staged to know what's different in these other things that we watched. So anyway, I did find a slime tutorial of the original Broadway cast. I only watched about half of it, like the first act, because that sort of answered all of the questions that I had. So Harvey Fierstein plays Edna. As you mentioned, Marissa Jarrett Winokur plays Tracy. I did not know this. Real big Broadway names. Laura Bell Bundy is Amber Von Tussle, who went on to gigantic stardom as Elle Woods in Legally Blonde.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And kind of gigantic megastar Carrie Butler in one of her first Broadway roles playing Penny.
See, that's the thing. Who's Carrie Butler? Because I have all these names written down, and the only one I know is Matthew Morrison because he was in Glee.
Oh, and Matthew Morrison from Glee, pre-Glee playing Link. So it was kind of an amazing...
Wait, who's Carrie Butler?
I don't know what she has originated that you would know her from, but she played Elphaba in Wicked.
Okay.
She's done tons of stuff. If you click on her name on Internet Broadway Database, her picture's there, and you got to be a big star to have your picture there, not just your name and the 3 things that you've done.
She's on the front page of IBDB?
It's the front page. Suffice it to say, I did watch some of a bootleg version of, this performance from 20 years ago, which I will reference as we talk about the other things in places where it's interesting or relevant. But I'm not really going to talk about the adaptation of the musical because I don't think it's fair because all I saw was a very shitty bootleg version.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like a couple things we can talk about because the recording exists of the original Broadway cast. So here's one thing we can talk about. The quality of the music in it.
Yes. It's a bop.
I almost think it's too much of a bop.
It's almost too catchy.
I don't think I'm the first person to say this, but okay. You can't stop the beat.
Yeah.
Maybe the longest song I've ever heard in a show.
Literally
ever.
100 minutes long.
It's so long. They keep, every time you think it's over, a little bit happens, and then they sing it again with
Yeah.
a new character that walked on stage.
Well, because I think they did it as their bows. So they just kept singing and kept singing.
Which makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, like, I almost think it's too catchy. It's a perfect catchy song.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing where it's so perfect it almost has no personality.
Yeah.
That helps you like identify with it.
Well,
it's just this perfect song.
It's funny because I've had Good Morning Baltimore stuck in my head,
which is also a perfect song.
is also a perfect song, but I would argue has a lot of personality because it's very specific about like Baltimore
Yes.
and like the flasher that lives next door
Yep.
and all this stuff. Well, the thing is, like, all of the songs that are part of the Corny Collins show are written in this very specific sort of Motown doo-wop style.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the songs outside of that, like Mama Welcome to the 60s, like it's all in this very, like, a lot of it is in this sort of 60s Motown style, which is a style I enjoy.
Yeah.
And Mama Welcome to the 60s is also like an amazing song. A lot
really
of these
is.
songs are so good.
We're going to play Bop or Not.
Yeah.
Good Morning Baltimore.
Bop.
The Nicest Kids in Town. Bop.
Bop.
Mama, I'm a Big Girl Now.
Bop.
Bop.
That one's great.
I Can Hear the Bells.
Bop.
I'm going to
yeah,
say Bop.
that's a bop.
The Legend of Miss Baltimore Crabs.
I would say that's not a bop.
That's not a bop.
I don't think
it's
any
good, but it's not a bop.
I would not say any of Velma's songs are a bop.
No, I would agree. It Takes Two.
Oh, that's a bop.
That's a bop. Welcome to the 60s.
Bop.
Run and Tell That.
That's a bop.
That's a bop.
Yeah.
It gets into an aspect that I think we could spend a minute talking
Yeah.
about, but bop. Big Blonde and Beautiful.
Bop.
Bop. The Big Dollhouse.
That's nothing.
It's not, I mean,
That's not a bop.
yeah, it does not appear later in any other versions. You're Timeless to Me.
I mean, I wouldn't call it a bop, but it's a very sweet song.
It is definitely this. Has anyone ever seen? It was from like I think the UCB theater, but it's on YouTube. I'm gonna link
it's
to
so
it.
good.
It's the song in every show that no one likes. Is a beautiful performance, and I'm just gonna reference it. I'll put it in the show notes. You should watch it.
It's this.
Because it is this song.
Yeah.
It really, one of the problems I have with Edna in the show is that I think a lot of times her character arc has been molded because that's what a Broadway show is supposed to have.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I don't know that Edna's arc is super important to the story.
Yeah. What I would say specifically about this, I agree with you.
Okay.
Although she's fun.
She's super fun.
I find that Mark Shaman is heavily influenced by Fiddler on the Roof, and this is the "Do You Love Me" of this show.
Yes.
Yes.
Agreed. But it's a bop.
Yeah, it's a bop. I mean, the thing about that song, that the UCB song that you were talking about, the song in every show that no one likes, the woman that sings it is amazing. But she it's like, I am usually. This is all in song, but it's like I'm an older actor that wanders on stage for 10 minutes and gets to sit down while I'm singing. Like, that's this song for sure. It's like Dick Latessa's one song in this show.
Without Love. Bop.
Oh, that's a bop.
Major
yeah, that
bop.
one's great. Yeah.
Okay, I Know Where I've Been.
See,
Ooh.
I wouldn't call it a bop. I guess I would
No.
call it more of a diva moment
It is a diva moment.
for Motormouth Maybelle.
Much like Run and Tell That, it gets to something, again, I think we should spend a minute talking about in a moment.
Yes.
It's Hairspray. Like anything Courtney sings is a bop.
Yeah.
Cooties. It's a bit of a bop.
It's a bit of a
It's
bop.
okay. You can't stop the beat.
That's just freaking bop.
No one's ever written a bop like it.
Yeah.
It's weird to say. It's so good. I honestly think it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. It's an okay way to end the show because I don't think it ends up having that much personality.
Yeah.
But it's so catchy that it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Agreed.
And Hairspray ends up being
It's a bop.
like it's a bop. Can I say my big thing about tone?
Yeah.
In the movie, the tone is 100% camp. The melodrama is so intense
Yeah.
that it's never taken seriously.
Yeah.
It's always a joke. The thing about the show is that it gets really sincere, and I would almost say, for me, a little too sincere.
Yeah.
Specifically around the way that it treats the plot of the civil rights movement.
Sure. Forgive me if I misinterpret what you had been saying to me
Sure.
previously. But I think what you kind of took exception to was this sort of, I'm just going to say, like, the way that white people write songs for black people about the experience of being black
Yeah.
was, like, not great. And I guess I would agree with that.
It's not so much that it's not great, it's that I don't know if it's great.
Yeah,
or
I don't know
not.
if it's great, like, because it's not their experience. So it's funny because I think, forgive me, because we did watch these all kind of like jumbled up on each other, so I don't remember which version this was in. Someone was saying they weren't letting so-and-so dance on the show because she was black, but she wrote the song. And there was some kind of moment where it was talking about white people stealing songs from black people and performing them and getting famous off of black people's music.
I think it's definitely in the movie musical.
Yeah.
I don't think it's in the original because I think in the original they never cut back. Because here's the thing. In the original, they're all dancing to pop music.
Right.
They're not dancing to songs they wrote.
Right.
That was invented for the show because
Right.
in the movie they're dancing to real songs,
Right.
but in the show they're dancing to made-up songs.
Right. Yeah.
So that was, I think, it was definitely in the movie musical. I don't know if it was in the show.
Yeah. So I guess it just is funny because there's a self-awareness. I won't even say self-awareness. There's an awareness there of that dichotomy, I guess you'd call it, but perhaps not as self-aware in terms of like white Jewish and Irish dudes writing songs for black people to sing. Not even writing songs for black people to sing, but literally writing songs about what it's like to be black.
Yeah.
I think that's the piece of it. It's not like writing songs in the style of any particular music, but more like Seaweed's song and Motormouth Maybell's song is about the life experience of what it is like to be a black person.
Mhm.
And I think that might be what you're responding to.
Whereas in the movie, I never got the sense that John Waters ever sat down with any of the black people who were involved and said, I just want you to know I have been very, very careful about how I'm portraying your experience.
Yeah.
And I have thought so hard about the words that I'm putting in your mouth. I think this is a chance to do something important and transmit an important message.
Because he's portraying everyone's experience in a ridiculous manner.
Right. I would just be surprised if any of the black people who were in Hairspray were thinking,
this man gets me.
like, it's one of those things where, like, I'm sure everyone's experience was basically like, this is not how it happened, but it is 100% accurate.
Yeah.
You know? And so all I'm saying is, I Know Where I've Been is one of these songs where it is undeniably a beautifully written song. It's a good message.
Yeah.
But I can't really connect with it because regardless of who's singing it, I know who wrote it.
Yeah.
And I know who didn't write it.
Yeah.
And I just feel like this musical crosses this line into speaking for black people
Yeah.
in a way that I don't think the movie did.
Yeah.
And I still think people responded to the musical. I'm not trying to say it's bad. I'm just trying to say that was the thing that kept me from loving it.
Yeah. I hear that. I think you're not wrong.
Before we move on to the movie musical, which is where I think we're at, I just want to give a quick little list of some of the other people who played some of these parts famously. This is one of my favorite things about Wikipedia is that for any musical it says other noteworthy performances, but it never really tells you where it's from or how long they played the character. But
well, you read some of these off to me and I think I knew what some of the performances were.
Courtney Collins was also at times played by Lance Bass.
Okay.
And John Stamos.
That's fun.
Makes perfect sense. Link Larkin was also played by Andrew Rannells.
Okay.
Which makes perfect sense. Nick Jonas.
Okay, that's fun.
Makes perfect sense. Aaron Tveit.
Yep.
Do you know him?
Well, he just won a Tony when he was the only person nominated.
Well, there was that. But wasn't he Enjolras in the 2012 Les Mis in the movie?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think he was.
I think he was.
Yeah.
He's come up on the show before.
Aaron Tveit, Tony winner, asterisk.
Mm-hmm. Edna Turnblad.
Yeah.
Also played by, and this is the longer list, Michael McKean.
Yep. I think he replaced Harvey Fierstein on Broadway is my recollection.
I do love Michael McKean.
Yeah, he's great. I love him.
Bruce Valanche.
I think he was in like the LA production maybe.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, perfect casting.
Yep.
John Panette.
I
Makes
don't
perfect sense
really
to
know
me.
who that is, but
He's a
yes.
comedian.
Yep.
Paul Vogt.
Yeah.
Who was in Hairspray Live as the station manager.
Yeah, he was really funny.
Mm-hmm. George Wendt.
Yeah.
Michael Ball, who we love.
So he did I assume did the London production.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I watched a little bit of it.
I
don't know why
didn't
you didn't watch
it,
any before.
Because you were in here watching it. I didn't know you were watching it. And I came in and I was like, oh, I would have liked to see that.
You could have watched it.
You had your headphones on. You were watching it.
He's pretty good. I mean, he sounds like Michael Paul.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to watch it after we finish recording.
But anyway, those are some notable people who have played this part as well. And
I feel like Tracy is usually played by an unknown.
I mean, I think that's kind of part of it is that if you're going to find someone who can play Tracy, of course they're unknown because no parts are written for people that can play Tracy.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like
unless you put someone skinny in a fat suit, which is super unfortunate.
You shouldn't.
We should not do.
Which you shouldn't do for any of the characters. Certainly not Tracy, but also I'm going to say not Edna.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. but they kind of did. Should we just get to it?
Yeah, let's do
talk about this movie
All
musical.
right, movie musical.
2007, it was directed by Adam Shankman. I want to give a little bit of background on Adam Shankman. Directed a lot of different movies. I got so excited until I made sure my glasses were on correctly and looked a little closer and realized that I was wrong. He directed The Wedding Planner.
Not The Wedding Singer.
Not The Wedding Singer.
Yeah.
He directed A Walk to Remember, Bringing Down the House, The Pacifier, Cheaper by the Dozen 2, Bedtime Stories, Rock of Ages, and What Men Want.
Oh, man.
But
that's a lot.
I mean, his background is in choreography.
Right, yeah, I know who Adam Shankman is.
Right. I mean, he not only directed this movie, he choreographed it with a team of choreographers. Can I just name 2 other things he choreographed that are noteworthy? He choreographed Addams Family Values.
Okay.
Music composed by Mark Shaman,
yeah.
who appears in the movie.
Right, as
during,
the piano player.
Yeah. Well, he's like the conductor of the orchestra during the Mamushka scene, which I'm given to understand was choreographed by Adam Shankman.
It's all coming together.
Okay. He also choreographed Once More with Feeling.
That's great.
From Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
That's great. I believe he also choreographed Legally Blonde, because I think he was one of the judges on the Legally Blonde MTV The Search for Elle Woods.
I'll believe it. I believe it.
That is my recollection.
This list that I've given was so far from exhaustive, it can't be overstated.
Yeah.
He's done so many things. So this movie was in the works for a number of years. Obviously, they used the original script. It was rewritten by Leslie Dixon. As for the music, Shaman and Whitman adapted their songs for it. There was many changes that were made to it.
Yeah.
Here's a subplot that was added. In the movie, Velma Von Tussle, one of her plans to get Tracy kicked off the show is to seduce her dad.
Yes.
Which would then make Edna jealous.
Yeah.
Which will make her take Tracy off the show.
Yeah, and that's not in the stage musical.
At all.
At all.
So in the movie, the song You're Timeless to Me isn't just this I love you, Edna song. It's I'm so sorry, Edna. Of course I wasn't doing anything with her because I love you.
Right.
I'm just going to say I don't know that this works.
Yeah. Because the way that it works in the stage musical is that Edna and Velma just sort of have this tense confrontation in the record shop where they both, because all the kids are there and they both kind of show up, and Edna, there's this really funny scene in the stage musical where Edna comes in and she's like, I was just, Tracy, here you are. I was just across the street getting some chicken and waffles. Hi, everybody. I'm Tracy's mom. And it's really cute. And
it's partly cute because it's Harvey Firestein.
Yeah.
Who's a treasure.
Yeah. Just pure delight. But in this, as you say, the tension between the two gets heightened quite a bit.
Right. They wrote 2 new songs for it. One was Come So Far, Got So Far to Go, which plays over the credits.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like a sequel to I Know Where I've Been.
Yeah.
And I feel like what it's doing is it's trying to recontextualize how the white people who created the show have written the black experience.
Yeah.
And tried to, because I feel like one of the things you could criticize the show for is doing that very traditional thing.
Everything's great now.
Everything's great now. The civil rights movement fixed everything.
Yeah.
And what this song is doing is it's saying, well, I mean, no, obviously it didn't fix everything.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously it didn't fix everything.
We
know it didn't fix everything.
We have civil rights now, so it's great.
Yeah. And so I feel like it's trying to walk that back a little bit, and it feels like it's trying to walk it back a little bit. At the end of the day, it's still, we're going to fix the fact that we're a bunch of white people writing from the black experience. We're going to fix it. We're going to fix the whole thing. We're going to write another song about what it's like to be black that'll fix everything the other songs we wrote about what it's like to be black.
All right.
Which I find very entertaining. Another thing that was kind of neat, another song that they added was Lady's Choice. So after Tracy gets turned down from the show, she fails the audition. She goes to that dance.
Yep.
And at the dance, Link is singing the song Lady's Choice. Yep. Which was a really fun song. Zac Efron in the movie is singing it.
Yep.
That got added to Hairspray Live in 2016, but they gave it to Corny.
Right. That dance in the stage version is a lot more like the scene in the movie where they're sort of doing the Madison.
Yeah.
And Corny's kind of calling out the steps, but it's not really a song.
No, it's the Madison.
Yeah. Well, they're not doing the Madison in the stage version. It's not called the Madison.
I thought it is called the Madison.
No.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Not in the one that I watched.
Maybe in the original
version.
movie it is. This is where everything
in
gets
the original
weird.
movie, it's the Madison.
That's what it is.
In the original movie, this is what I'm trying to tell you. In the original movie, it's the Madison.
We're playing it loose.
In the stage version, there is a similar scene where they are doing a dance that everybody is kind of line dancing, doing the same motions at the same time, but they do not call it the Madison.
Right.
Which was, as I understand it, a real dance. Based on the fact that in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, Brad says, any of you guys know how to Madison, which I never understood until I saw this movie. There we go.
Another thing that I think is interesting is as far as the music goes, "Mama, I'm a Big Girl Now" was a song that was in the show, which is like Amber and Tracy and Penny are all singing to their moms.
Yep.
And that was cut from the movie.
Yes.
But they did do it during the end credits, and it was sung by Nikki Blonsky, who plays Tracy in the movie, Ricky Lake, and Marissa Jarrett Winokur.
That's very cute.
It's very cute.
It's very,
very
very,
sweet.
Very sweet. Do you want to just leap into this and talk about John Travolta real
No,
quick?
I don't want to, because I want to talk about what my experience was before John Travolta showed up on screen.
Please do.
I loved this movie. I loved it. I was so here for it.
Nikki Blonsky is really good in this.
She's really good.
Her dancing is really, really good.
Yeah.
And I was actually thinking about this the other day because I was having like one of those like shower big thought moments, and I was thinking about Nikki Blonsky's performance, and I was like, I wonder, like, did she do all her own dancing, or did they like have a dance double? And then I thought, if you have a dance double with the body type of Tracy Turnblad, who can dance better than the person who's playing Tracy Turnblad, maybe that person should just play Tracy Turnblad.
Yeah.
I assume that she did all of her own dancing.
That is my understanding.
And she was very good.
Very
good. I thought that she was a better dancer than the young woman who played Tracy in Hairspray Live. That was my impression.
Maddie Bailio?
Yes.
Bailio?
Who was also absolutely adorable and
she's
great.
so good. So good.
And a wonderful singer. But I was particularly impressed with Nikki Blonsky's dancing.
It had me right from the beginning. I've talked about this at length on the show. I'm going to give the quick version of it. When you are adapting a stage musical to the screen, I really appreciate, as a viewer, when you embrace the fact that what you're making is cinema and not theater.
And did they do that in this?
100% of the time.
Yeah.
This was a cinematic movie musical. I'm not saying it was like 100% successful
it's no
every
La
minute.
La Land.
Right. Well, but what I'm saying is, at least it was doing the thing that I want to see in a movie musical.
Yeah.
I'll give an example of it.
Please.
I Can Hear the Bells.
Yeah.
This is Tracy singing about like meeting Link for the first time in the context of the Corny Collins show and being like, oh, I love this guy. And I can hear the bells. We're going to spend the rest of our life together. In the show, how is this song staged?
It's like everyone freezes and she's just kind of singing in a spotlight.
Right. She's like at her audition.
At
the Corny Collins show. So he's frozen on screen. And so that works in the context of a stage musical, but in the movie, it's done completely differently.
Yeah.
And instead, what they do is we actually get to see so many different things. We get to see the things she's visualizing. Almost every line of the song is sung in a different location. And sometimes it's what she's imagining. Sometimes it's like she's looking into the boys' bathroom. What I'm saying is it uses the rules and tools of cinema to tell something in a way that you could not do it on stage.
Yes. Can I give you another example, actually?
Please.
In the song Without Love, Tracy is in jail because she's been jailed after this protest. And Link has made his way to her bedroom. He's hanging out like with her parents. In the stage musical, he's actually made his way to the jail and they're singing to each other through the bars.
Because she's in jail in the musical.
Yeah, in the musical.
Right, yeah.
And they're on the stage together singing to each other through the bars. In the movie, they do this really cool thing.
Because she's in Penny's basement, right?
Yeah, but they do this really cool thing where he's in her bedroom and there's like her school photo is framed and he's singing to the photo and then the photo actually sings back to him, which is, they did a really good job of making that look cool and also something you could never possibly do in a live musical.
Right.
In the live musical, everyone's just on stage and they're there with each other.
Can I tell you that was a reference to a Judy Garland movie where she's singing to a picture of Clark Gable and the picture is singing back.
I appreciate that.
Can I tell you
I did not know that.
another movie musical reference in this movie?
Yeah.
So during that same song, we also see Penny and Seaweed singing to each other.
Yeah.
Because they're in love. And Penny is trapped in her mom's, in her bedroom. She's been trapped by her mother, who we never even really talked about. We didn't even talk about her in the context of the movie.
Yeah.
But Penny's mom is my favorite character in the movie.
Yeah.
She's so intensely racist and over the top and so pearl clutchy about everything.
She does a lot of screaming.
She's amazing. It's an incredible performance. In the movie musical, when Penny shows up at the show in like a dress,
Yeah.
her dress is made out of the curtains from her bedroom,
That's funny.
which is a reference to The Sound of Music.
Oh, I was going to say Gone with the Wind, but yes, also The Sound of Music.
Yeah.
There's a lot of references to Gypsy also when she says, "I'm a pretty girl, mama." That's from Gypsy.
Yeah. So anyway, this is a very cinematic movie musical, which I really appreciate. I love to see that, and to me, that's the bare minimum for doing a movie musical.
Yes.
You should embrace that part of it. And Adam Shankman did. Again, it's not 100% successful, but like, here are the things that I think are great in this movie. Beside the fact that it's shot really well.
Yeah.
And beside the fact that the music is still a bop. Still a bop from the stage show. The music is constantly a bop throughout. Casting is really good. Nikki Blonsky. She's great. James Marsden as Corny Collins.
He's really good.
I love James Marsden in
Allison
everything he ever does.
Janney's in this movie.
Allison Janney's amazing in everything.
Criminally underused, actually.
It was really funny because I was telling you, I didn't think she was criminally underused because she got to be, I said this to you when we were watching it, that like Allison Janney never gets really higher than an 8 as Penny's mom, Prudy.
Mm-hmm.
But the woman in the original was like a 12 the entire time. But then there is one quick scene where Allison Janney gets to play a 10.
Yeah.
And it's pretty great.
It's pretty great.
And she gets to fall down.
And I was laughing because I like
thing that
it makes me laugh. when
makes
people
Ari
fall down.
Lipshaw laugh is people falling down.
Yep.
Brittany Snow and Michelle Pfeiffer as Amber Von Tussle and Velma Von Tussle. I think they're very, very good.
Yeah.
Zac Efron as
he's
Link.
good. Yeah, he's
Real
good.
good, great casting.
Perfect casting.
Really perfect casting.
Yep.
And Jerry Stiller comes back as Mr. Pinky, the guy that owns the large women's clothing store.
That's right.
It's great to see Jerry Stiller in
Yep.
it. I'm going to say another great thing.
Yeah.
John Waters makes an appearance in this movie.
Okay, so we're watching the opening sequence of this movie, and there's a line in the song Good Morning Baltimore where Tracy sings, "There's the flasher who lives next door." And as she's singing this, Jeremy goes...
Like right before.
Yeah, Jeremy goes, I wonder if John Waters is going to make a cameo in this movie. And she sings, "There's the flasher who lives next door." And on screen runs John Waters as the flasher. And Jeremy goes, well, asked and answered, I guess.
It is a perfect cameo.
It was great.
And we didn't even talk about John Waters in the original because in the original he plays the like
psychologist.
quack psychologist.
Yeah, who's not in any other version.
It's amazing though. Like the few moments he's on screen in the original are incredible. I also did enjoy that Christopher Walken had scenes with Michelle Pfeiffer because, of course, famously, he pushed her out of the window in Batman Returns and made her Catwoman.
He also knows what happened to Natalie Wood.
He does.
He's not saying, though.
There weren't that many people on the boat, but he
But
was on the
one
boat.
of them. I think the only one who still lives, actually.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm
Do it.
so
Just do it.
sorry,
Just
but we
do
have
it.
to talk about John Travolta.
Do it.
There is something in this movie that spoiled my experience, and I think spoiled yours even more.
This movie could have been a love, and it will never be anything more than a like for me because of this one thing.
Because
Maybe
again,
two things, but go on.
I hate to say, and we do say this sometimes, maybe too much, the creator of this thing did not understand the thing that they were making or the thing that they were adapting well enough to do it right. And I don't like saying that because obviously I'm not inside anybody's head. But we spent literally 45 hours earlier in this podcast. Conservatively, 1,000,000 hours talking about how respectful and loving and thoughtful we felt that Divine's performance as Edna was in the original Hairspray, and so little of it had anything to do with the fact that Divine is a man. Despite the fact that Divine is not wearing like any makeup really, and like she's not even really shaved. Divine kind of has like Divine looks like a man, you know, like
that's part of
Divine's thing. But as you so beautifully said, it in no way had anything to do with her femininity.
Mm-hmm.
So to go from that and to go from Harvey Fierstein's very joyful performance in the Broadway version in which I think there is literally only one joke about the fact that Edna is a man, and it's actually not about being a man or not being a man. It's about Harvey Fierstein specifically having a very unusual voice.
What was it?
When Edna picks up the phone and says, "No, I'm not her father."
Yeah. That's a Harvey Fierstein joke.
That's a Harvey Fierstein joke. And
Yeah.
that's Harvey Fierstein making fun of himself. There is nothing mocking or not joyful in Harvey Firestein's performance.
This is the moment where I would love to do my Harvey Fierstein impression, but I don't have one.
You don't have it in you.
I would kill to have
you don't
one
have
in
it
me,
in
but
you.
I can't do it.
I don't think you can do it. I don't think you have
No, I don't.
what it takes to do that. I certainly don't. The closest comparison I can make to John Travolta's performance in this movie, the thing that it kept putting me in mind of all performances in all movies that I have ever seen, was Johnny Depp as Willy Wonka in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And that is not a good thing because that performance was not good. And that was all I could think of.
But it was a hell of a performance.
It was a lot.
It was a lot of performance.
It was a lot of performance. And so to go from this legacy, I just don't know what anyone was thinking. To go from this legacy of Divine and Harvey Fierstein, and then to take John Travolta, who I think could play the role, but to put John Travolta in like this crazy face prosthetic and make a lot of the physical humor and jokes about the fact that it's a man. Oh, it's a man. It's not really a woman. He's a man. Was shocking to me. And I just don't understand how you can go from Divine and Harvey Fierstein to this. I don't understand where the connection was cut to think that this performance in any way reflects what has come before.
I imagine this conversation where someone is saying, so what you're telling me is you've cast the part with someone who does not have a history of ever playing characters like this or embracing anything like this or demonstrating a love of drag.
Yeah.
And then the person responds saying like, yes, and we've made it worse. Because now what we've done is we've also turned it into a fat-shaming role.
Yeah.
Because
there's so much
by putting John Travolta in all of the makeup, not
and
only
the prosthetic body.
That's what I mean. The makeup and the prosthetic body. You're not only deriving humor from the fact that this woman is played by a man, a guy we all know to be a man.
Yeah.
This man who, despite directions we could go in, like is famous for playing hyper masculine characters. Like, I mean, I'm looking at like Saturday Night Fever, Grease. These are integral roles to the history of John Travolta in film. These are male characters that lead by their crotch. Like their crotch is what leads them through every story.
But they are dancing roles, like singing and dancing roles, you know? Like he is a song and dance man.
And that's the thing that's actually kind of good in this. The dancing is impeccable.
It's great.
He's a hell of a dancer. Yeah. His dancing as Edna's great. Like, that's not my problem.
Yeah, and I think...
But what I'm saying is, not only have they taken the idea that they have taken this role that celebrates femininity and given it to John Travolta, who's not really bringing anything to the part.
Yeah.
You're also then saying, oh, and also we're putting him in a fat suit. So we're also making fun of fat people at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is not something the role ever really did.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I had said to you was like, it's like... he's pretending to be two things that he's not. And that's too many things.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Divine and Harvey Fierstein weren't pretending to be fat people.
3 things.
What's 3 things?
He also decided that he was going to intensely pretend to be someone from Baltimore. And his
despite
accent,
the fact that no one else in the movie has any accent.
But he was like, this is the Johnny Depp in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Because he showed up doing an accent one day and everyone was like, where's this accent coming from?
Apparently it was a Baltimore accent because he sounds identical to John Travolta in this movie.
Like, I think about this accent the way I think about like Nathan Lane pretending to be John Wayne in The Birdcage. Yeah. It's like, it was that like, no, it was perfect. I just didn't know John Wayne walked that way. Like, I guess it's a perfect Baltimore accent. I just didn't know anyone from Baltimore talked the way that John Travolta talks in this movie.
How many seasons of The Wire did you watch? Does anybody talk like this?
I mean, McNulty kind of does, but he also has like not a good American accent.
Yeah, I don't think that's the standard that you should base like
what
anything
I'm saying
on.
is
Dominic West is not from Baltimore.
No, what I'm saying is I'm not using my experience with The Wire as a way to measure how good John Travolta's accent is in this. So he's pretending to be 3 things that he's not.
3 things that he's not, and I think that's two things too many. I think that's where I'm gonna like let that
A-
rest.
And it's one of these things where the problem I don't really think lies with John Travolta. Like, I don't blame John Travolta for this at
No.
all. Like, John Travolta, he's an actor. Actors want to work.
Yeah.
So actors are going to go for parts that they can get
Yeah.
because they want to work.
Yeah.
And every actor trusts the people that are making the things that they're in.
Yeah.
They are trusting the director to tell them to do something that is going to work. They're trusting the cinematographer to shoot it in a way that works and it is flattering. They're trusting the editor to pick their best performances in it. There's a lot of trust that goes into it. So I don't really blame an actor for taking a role. I blame the creators of the movie for casting him in it.
Yeah.
I don't blame him. I blame them.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think you might have also identified like where this movie kind of tips over the line of earnestness
Yeah.
that the stage production I think was flirting with but didn't cross over.
Mhm.
Whereas the movie, I think, is actually pretty different from the stage musical in tone.
Which itself was very different from the original movie.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So if the original movie was, I'm gesturing with my hands, was like over here,
which is great for podcasting.
and the stage musical was sort of here.
In the middle.
In the middle, I'm going to say the movie is just sort of like just over the line, but the line that I'm demonstrating right here with my hand is like earnestness. Like, and I think the problem for me is that if I picture this movie and I picture Harvey Fierstein in this movie, that performance actually doesn't match this movie because that performance is so over the top in a particular way.
Mhm.
I just fear what the creators of this movie were saying is like, well, that won't play on screen. We have to make a more realistic film. You know, these
Yeah.
characters have to be, quote, more realistic, which is kind of funny when you think of John Travolta, as we just mentioned, playing three things that he's not.
Yeah.
That seems to me to be the direction that they're trying to take it. That they're not trying to be as broad or as funny or as, like, there's a lot of wink at the audience stuff
Mhm.
in the stage musical that makes sense because there is an audience. You know, I just think, I just
to be
picture
clear,
the creators
you're saying that the presence of an audience in a musical is something that's important.
yes, this goes back to Aristotle. There's certain elements of drama that Aristotle calls upon in the Poetics. One is the performer and one is the audience. You cannot have a performance without either a performer or an audience, which is why I don't like audience participation, because when the audience becomes the performance, then you have no audience and therefore you do not have a performance. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
You and I differ on this, but that is okay. I love you.
That's okay, but I stand with Aristotle on this one.
Mhm.
It seems to me that the creators of this movie looked at Harvey Fierstein's performance, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he just like wasn't available.
Mhm.
But it just seems to me that they looked at this performance and said, well, that won't work in our movie. I do not know that that's what happened, but if that were to be the case, I would say that was a shame.
Yeah.
I do not think that the creators of this movie musical did a good enough job paying homage to the tradition of this character.
I agree with that.
Yes. However, the movie's a bop. Like, the songs are a bop.
Sure, the songs are a bop, except for, again, I Know Where I've Been.
Sure.
And this gets to the thing I'm talking about before, where by adding the song at the end, Come So Far, Got So Far to Go, it's this group of white people going, no, we're going to fix how we talked about we're going to fix it by doing more of it. And the way that they change the placement of I Know Where I've Been, I think speaks to that. Because in the original, one of the things that happens is Motormouth Maybelle with Tracy, they all lead a march on the TV station.
Yes.
And,
March on Washington.
Right. And in the show, it's to this song, Big Blonde and Beautiful.
Yep.
And then, Tracy goes to jail and blah, blah, blah. And then back, like after Tracy gets out of jail, then she's saying, no, we're going to do this big, I got this plot for how we're going to integrate the Corny Collins show. And some people are saying, no, we can't do it. And then Motormouth Maybelle says, no, we should do this.
Yes.
And it's important. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I know where I've been and I know where I'm going. And like talking about how hard civil rights is.
Yes, and also like the white person had to show up to give them the idea to do civil rights, which is unfortunate.
It's a little unfortunate. And so I think the placement, I still don't think it works 100%, but I think it works better. What they do in the movie is they say, no, we are going to make that march on the TV station a somber affair.
It's like Selma. It is really very serious.
It is serious as a heart attack.
Yeah.
Like, what is the furthest thing away from camp you can be? Because this is that.
Yes.
There's no camp in this scene at all. And to the idea that it's coming from the 1988 Hairspray,
Yeah.
which is wall-to-wall camp, even the stuff about the civil rights, and I think it makes it play better. This one is like, no, that march on the TV station
It's serious.
this
serious
is
business.
serious work, because we do not joke about the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
And the thing is, well, no, you can joke about it. Anything.
You can joke about anything.
It depends on what your perspective is, and it depends on who's saying it and how you're saying it.
It's punching up versus punching down.
Exactly. And this, I think, they said, well, this aspect of the story is really serious, and we have to treat it seriously.
And also, maybe we don't feel comfortable telling this story, which might have been a hint
right.
to the production team to add people to the team who might have felt more comfortable telling this story and speaking for these people.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Because, again, I go back to one person that I think would never say that they were, like, really doing a great job of speaking for the Black experience in America is John Waters.
Yeah.
That wasn't what he was trying to do.
Yeah.
But he knew that it mattered. He knew that it was part of it.
Yeah.
So he included it.
I feel like, okay, this movie's very enjoyable.
It really is.
So I don't want to make it seem like we're dunking on it
It's a like.
too much.
It's a like.
It's
I
a
like
like.
this movie.
It's a like.
I almost loved it.
Except for the thing.
Then we watched a weird thing. We watched Hairspray live from 2016.
Yeah, we did.
So this was part of a series that NBC was doing of made-for-TV musical
Oh, they're
telecasts.
still doing it. They're
Yeah.
still doing it.
At
New
the-
ones coming out all the time.
At the time, it was the fourth one they had done. They had done The Wiz live.
Yep.
They had done Peter Pan live.
Oh, I watched that with friends of mine.
Who was in Peter Pan? Who played Peter Pan?
Oh, what's her name from Girls?
Oh, Allison Williams?
Allison Williams. Yeah.
Brian Williams' daughter?
Yeah, she was
Yeah.
not very good.
Well, I mean. And then they did Sound of Music live.
Yeah.
Was that Carrie Underwood?
I think
Am
so,
I
yeah.
misremembering
No,
that?
you're
okay.
not.
Well, anyway, they did Hairspray. Aired December 7th, 2016 on NBC. It was directed by Kenny Leon and Alex Rudzinski. The teleplay was written by Harvey Fierstein.
Right.
And he came back to play Edna.
Yeah, because this is definitely like the stage musical's like 2.5 hours, and this was like
2 hours.
under 2 hours.
yeah.
Yeah. 2 hours with commercials.
First thing we've ever watched in is the only thing we've ever watched full length on Peacock.
Peacock. I watched some
it
of
had
the
ads in it because we're not willing to pay for Peacock Plus Premium Gold, which is what you have to pay for to get. I don't think that's what
Are
it's
you
called.
serious?
There's like 5 or 7
no,
different
I
levels of Peacock.
remember this because
yeah.
I was trying to figure out how to watch the Olympics and finally just had my brother add me to his YouTube TV.
There it is.
Anyway, so far from what I was trying to say. So they did this live. They did it live on.
We'll do it live.
They did it. They do these like live on like a backlot.
Mhm.
It's not like a filmed performance with an audience. It is like live, but sort of like live TV would be. Do you remember on ER?
Yeah.
They did the premiere, like the season premiere episode. They did it live.
Yeah, I watched it. I
Yeah.
watched the Eastern Seaboard telecast.
Yeah.
because they had to do it twice.
You had to do it twice.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
Well, it's different because that was done. That still was like in the hospital.
Yeah.
And the whole conceit was that it was a documentary crew shooting something.
Sure.
In the hospital.
Right.
What I'm thinking of was because did you ever watch 30 Rock live?
No.
And it was still like an episode of 30 Rock within the story of 30 Rock, but it looked like SNL.
Yeah.
Like with an audience.
Sure.
And they had weird, celebrity cameos and things like that. Like at no point did it ever try to be within the reality of the show.
Right.
But it was live.
Okay.
Which was kind of fun.
Well, here is a weird thing. When you do a live performance of a musical, but you don't actually have an audience, a lot of things seem a little flat.
A live performance of a stage
musical with no audience, but the actors are kind of acting as if they would expect to have an audience, like, oh, I don't know, laugh.
Yeah, they're holding for the laugh
They're
constantly.
They're holding for the laugh that never comes.
Like, can I give an example of this?
Sure.
So there's a scene in the show where Penny is at the Turnblad's house watching Tracy on the Courtney Collins show with Tracy's parents.
Yeah.
And at one point, she says hi to Tracy on the TV. And Edna says, "Oh, sweetie, she can't hear you. She's on the TV."
Yeah.
And like, that's a joke. And
Yeah.
in the stage version, the audience laughs.
Well, it's funny because I actually noticed this. The joke in the stage version is slightly different.
Oh, is it?
Because it's got 2 beats to it.
Uh-huh.
Edna says to Penny, "Oh, honey, she can't hear you." And then Edna turns to Wilbur and goes, "Can she?"
That's cute.
The laugh builds upon itself because they laugh at the first joke and then they laugh at the second joke. It's
Right.
very clever.
In Hairspray Live, they keep the joke.
Yeah.
So Ariana Grande
Yeah.
as Penny,
By the way, BT Dubs.
she's not doing a very good
She's
acting
not
job, I would say.
So good.
But, well, I mean, here's the thing. She's amazing at being Ariana Grande.
yeah.
Like, at no point is she not Ariana Grande.
And to be fair, I just will point out Ariana Grande, much like Nick Jonas,
Sure.
like legit child star live musical theater actor. Like she was young Cosette in like professional
Sure.
productions of Les Mis. Like she did lots of live theater as a child.
But anyway,
Yes.
she does the joke, and Harvey Fierstein says, "Oh, honey, she can't hear you. She's on TV." But because there's no laugh track, it just plays in complete silence.
Yeah.
It's like the scene that would be in a drama where, like, you have a character who has some kind of mental deficiency or a head injury
Yeah.
or something like that, and it's played for pathos.
Yeah.
Not for comedy.
Yeah.
It's so serious the way, like, Edna is legitimately concerned for Penny's mental well-being in that scene.
Yeah.
And it's heartbreaking, the idea that Penny's
Penny's not doing good.
She's not doing well.
Okay.
That's not what the scene is supposed to do.
That's not what the scene's supposed to do. I'm just going to call out some performances from this that were amazing.
Okay.
Tracy, remind me of this young lady's
I
name.
hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Maddie Bailio. She's so good.
She's an unknown, apparently, like, open casting call of like 1,000 Tracys, which I would have loved to be in that room because that just seems like it would have been a lot of fun.
Oh my God, totally.
She's so cute. Like, every Tracy more adorable than the last. Like, they're just all so cute.
Nikki Blonsky does not make an appearance in this, I
Yeah.
believe, but Ricky Lake and
Marissa Jarrett Winokur.
they're both in it.
Yes, as like little cameos.
Yeah.
Penny's mother, played by fucking Andrea Martin, who is such a jewel and treasure. So funny.
Mhm.
We were laughing. Like, not a very large part, and she's so funny.
Andrew
like,
Martin's amazing. In
not
everything
afraid of
she
physical
does.
comedy.
Nope.
Like, just so funny.
Let's play Treasure or Not
Okay,
really quickly.
Go for it.
Harvey Fierstein.
Treasure.
Okay, Martin Short as Wilbur Turnblad.
Treasure.
Treasure.
You loved Martin Short in this so much.
Kristen Chenoweth as Velma Von Tussle.
I mean, obviously, Treasure.
She's a treasure. I know she's not your favorite.
She's not my favorite, and also Velma is like not an amazing role.
Yeah. Andrea Martin, treasure.
Treasure.
I'm just saying there's a lot of treasures in this movie.
Jennifer Hudson as Motormouth Maybelle.
Jennifer Hudson is she's something else. I
She's
don't
got a
know
voice
if
on
you
her.
know this, but she is just a heck of a singer.
I think it is possible because famously Jennifer Hudson lost herself a lot of weight
She did.
and looks amazing. Looked great before.
She looked great before.
Looked great before.
Yeah.
Looked great when she was on American Idol. Like, looks beautiful. Has an amazing instrument in her voice. I think she might have been cast as Motormouth Maybelle before she lost the weight, because Motormouth Maybelle does have a song called Big, Blonde, and Beautiful about loving your body as a larger person. Jennifer Hudson, very skinny.
Yeah.
So
Singing this to Harvey Fierstein, a larger gentleman.
a larger gentleman. So a little bit confusing there, but fine, all fine. Everyone should love their bodies, skinny, fat, everyone. I at one point turned to you and I was like, imagine after this when Harvey Fierstein, Martin Short, Andrea Martin, and Kristen Chenoweth all go out to dinner.
I want to be there so
Yeah,
bad.
like, do you want to sit at that dinner table? Like, how much would you pay? Like, any amount of money.
Any amount.
This was a little bit of a meld of the stage production and the movie, because there was, as you pointed out, stuff in this that was from the movie.
Yeah, so they take Lady's Choice,
Yep.
which was originally Link's song, but they give it to Corny Collins. And they, at the end, Jennifer Hudson and Ariana Grande sing Come So Far, Got So Far to Go.
Yeah. I guess the only thing that I would say is more of a criticism of these like NBC Live performances in general is that the lack of an audience really, in every one that I have seen, and I've seen a number of them, just makes it fall flat and seems just like kind of like weirdly silent. And I would rather see every single time, I would just rather see a filmed live performance, much like Into the Woods.
Yes.
Right? Like, there's an audience there.
I mean, it makes you appreciate the fact that we have that
Yeah.
so much more.
Yeah, and it's too bad because every production that's ever been on Broadway has been filmed, professionally. And those tapes are available if you go to New York City and you go to the New York Library of the Performing Arts, which is part of the New York Public Library system. You can check out anything you want. You have to go. It's fun. You have to go and sit in this little carrel in this little room and watch them with headphones. And you have to have like a legitimate research. You have to have a New York Public Library card, and you have to have a legitimate like research purpose to watch them. But you can just say I'm a student. Like they don't like ask like what you're a student of.
I have to keep a journal.
Yeah. And you can watch anything you want. Every single Broadway production since the 80s, I think, is there. Maybe even the 70s. And I just think there's a lot of licensing around why none of that is available to the public. But I just think it's such a shame that it's not available. Like I wish that the library would get some streaming service. I would happily pay to have all of this available to me.
I think it's the reason why so many things aren't available is because someone thinks, well, we could make a ton of money, so I don't want to do something that could make us a little bit of money when we could make more.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the whole thing about releasing all of them and making them available to people, I feel like the fear would be, well, if anyone can just watch it, why would anyone go see the theater anymore? But I think a lot of people would also argue that there's no better advertisement for live theater than being able to see some of these performances.
And it's all about like releases and licensing and like equity, because they're equity actors, but it would be a different union if it was broadcast. Like it's a whole thing.
Sure. But it's an unfortunate thing.
It's an unfortunate thing, and this is why we get these Broadway live things. Again, I've said this before, probably say it again. I wouldn't be very hesitant to judge anyone for liking any exposure that they can get to live theater, because not everybody has access to live, especially in these days.
Mm-hmm.
Like any access to live theater. If this is the only access you've ever had to a live musical, this is the closest you can get to seeing a live performance of Hairspray. Like, God bless you. Like, it's not bad. I just think it loses something in the translation between mediums.
Yeah. It's weird that we keep watching musicals where one single decision, maybe to us, kind of torpedoes it.
Yeah.
But not necessarily to everyone who's watching it. So, like, we talked at length in the Les Mis episode about how the one decision to do all of the singing live on set kind of killed it for us.
Yeah.
Because it's like a cascade effect where it causes so many other issues to crop up because of that one decision. This is that same kind of thing. It's like, well, by not doing it in front of an audience, it's going to cause a lot of things to happen.
Yeah.
Because it's made for that. It's made for that audience. By the way, I will go back and say the movie musical, all of the singing was to a track. At no point did it prevent me from getting emotionally invested in what was happening.
And as I pointed out to you, like every other movie musical literally ever.
Yeah, exactly.
Because definitely no one's ever had an emotional response to West Side Story, The Sound of Music, The King and I, Guys and Dolls, literally any classic you could name. Yeah, I mean, as anyone that's ever done any kind of live performance, whether that's theater or music or dance or anything knows, like there is a different energy in the room when there is an audience present, even if you're not doing something that anyone would be expected to laugh at. It's not about like the laughter and holding for the laugh and like responding to the laugh. Like there is for sure you just get an energy off of a human being in a room performing for another human being that's also in a room. And I will say it before, say it again, like that is the joy of live performance, not just live theater. But again, you take what you can get, I guess.
But I guess like what this gives us an on-video record of Harvey Fierstein playing Edna Turnblad.
For sure.
And many other great people who are in this.
Yeah.
And it's worth, if you're a fan of Hairspray and you haven't seen it, like see it.
Yeah.
It's absolutely worth watching. But that made it kind of not work for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. You want to wrap this up?
Yeah, let's wrap it up. Let's do some quadrants really quickly. 2002 musical. Do you think they cared about the source material?
Sure they did.
Yeah, they
of course
absolutely
they did.
It is very loving. Is it successful?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a bop.
2007 movie. Do you think they cared about the source material?
I think they cared about the stage musical as the source material.
I am actually going to go so far as to say they really cared about the original movie too.
Yeah, fair enough.
There's just so many cameos in it from the original. Like John Waters was part of this.
Yeah.
Like I don't think they were doing that just because of the musical. I think they were doing that because of the original movie.
Yep.
Was it successful?
Yeah.
Yeah,
in a sense.
Yeah.
Yes, I would say.
I think it is good. So many things going for it. 2016, do you think they cared about the source material?
Sure they did. Yeah, of course.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
like
know.
Harvey Fierstein, I bet does.
Yeah.
Was it successful? I'm going to say no.
I'm going to say no. I don't. It's the format. I don't
Yeah.
like these. I don't like these NBC Live musical things. I don't think it works.
Like, I think I can say that something is worth watching,
Yeah.
but also it not be successful.
Yeah.
Like, it's not worth watching because it's successful.
Yeah.
It's worth watching despite the fact that it's not successful.
If you want to see a live performance of Hairspray, you can find on YouTube a live performance of the original Broadway cast, and I would maybe recommend watching that instead.
Hey, we did it. We did another musical.
Yeah, under 2 hours.
Well, it's hopefully the edit's going to be well under 2
Yeah.
hours. This has been Adapter Parish. If you'd like to find us online, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AdaptCast. You can join our groups on Facebook and Goodreads, and you can also find and follow me on Letterboxd. You can also listen to my other show that I am appearing on called Multiplex Time Machine. I record it with my best friend Ian. It is a look back at the movies of 2007. If you have anything to say that's longer than a tweet, you can always send an email to adapterparishcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the show, there are 3 great ways you can do it. First, tell a friend. Second, a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice would be greatly appreciated. Third, we are on Patreon. This show will always be free, but if you become a patron, you can get access to Adapter Parish Plus, our bonus show that releases every other week between episodes of this show, and our patron-only Slack community. It's been a lot of fun, and all the details are at patreon.com/adaptcast.
Good night, Baltimore.
Bye, everybody.